Donald Trump has promised to place tariffs on goods from around the world. How would such a move impact U.S.-Taiwan relations?
For him and his more transactional leadership style, Taiwan will have much more of an economic than an ideational value.
Taiwan's government offers various financial incentives to encourage people to have more children. But are they working? Authorities in Taiwan are still hoping to clear out the oil from a stranded freighter before a leak happens. Plus,
here in Kinmen, just a few kilometers from China's coast, and once the front line of battle between China and Taiwan, the question of identity is a complicated one.
good evening and welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Eric Gao. Taiwan is bracing for potential tariffs from U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. The head of the central bank here is warning that if Trump follows through on his campaign promises, trade conflicts could escalate around the world. Joyce Tseng reports.
Resting confidence in Taiwan's high-tech dominance, central bank head Yang Jinglong said he does not think U.S. President-elect Donald Trump will penalize Taiwan for running a sizable trade surplus with the U.S., a concern raised as Trump campaigned on aggressive tariff plans on all U.S. imports as a way to boost the local economy. Trump had falsely accused Taiwan of stealing semiconductor business from the U.S., casting doubt on the superpower as Taiwan's most important global backer and source of arms, despite not having formal diplomatic ties. It's a worry Yang is tempering, stating that the United States needs Taiwan.
我们这两个国家的一个合作呢，是两翼的，是很好的。因为说实在的，它是设计，我们是制造，而且我们的这个制造呢，又是非常先进的。 是他需要我们的产品。
Trump's campaign pledge to impose sweeping tariffs on imports has raised eyebrows around the world, especially in China, with the president-elect vowing a 60% levy on Chinese-made goods. Taiwan's central bank has warned that such a policy would escalate trade conflicts around the world and would impact Taiwan's export-dependent economy, driven by the manufacture of advanced chips. Last month, leading chipmaker TSMC was caught in the crosshairs of the ongoing U.S.-China trade war when its tech was found in a China-made Huawei phone by way of a third-party customer, breaching U.S. tech restrictions on Beijing. Lawmakers are warning such incidents cannot happen with Trump in office.
台湾绝对要避免成为中国产品绕道的这个路径。 否则，为了要制裁这个流氓国家，不照国际贸易的惯例来的话，到时候连台湾都会被拉下去。
During Trump's first term, he imposed tariffs on China but spared Taiwan. Now, as he prepares for a non-consecutive second term, Trump's pick of China hardliner Marco Rubio for Secretary of State signals that his China policy could be more aggressive, affecting more than bilateral trade. Over the last 4 years, Taiwan's shared democratic values with the U.S. were key in working with outgoing President Joe Biden, but there will likely need to be some repositioning for its dealings with Trump.
For him and his more transactional leadership style, Taiwan will have much more of an economic than an ideational value. As to whether the tariffs will bring about more benefits or troubles for Taiwan, whose economy is still closely tied to that of China, will depend on what effectively Trump will do once he becomes president and on whether Taiwan will be able to insulate its economy and to further diversify its trade away from China.
With 2 months to go until Trump returns to the White House, Taiwan has already set up an ad hoc group led by the Vice Premier Zheng Lijun to strengthen ties with the new administration, a commitment to ensuring that U.S.-Taiwan relations remain strong and mutually beneficial through any transition. Ethan Chen and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
The government needs to do more to support working parents in order to address the country's low birth rate. That's what childcare policy advocates are urging, saying mothers should not be solely responsible for raising children. Tiffany Wong reports.
Taiwan is facing a double-edged population crisis, plummeting birth rates, and a rapidly aging society. The country is on track to become a super-aged society next year, boosting concerns that policies to increase the birth rate also need some major reforms. One childcare advocacy alliance says they have a solution.
育儿津贴没有效，公共托育才重要，公共托育才重要，延长育婴津贴吃不到，有弹性才重要，有弹性才重要。
This group advocates for solutions to keep mothers in the workforce so that women do not have to choose between their career and having children, and do not disproportionately take on the burden of caregiving responsibilities.
那稳定工作是生育的前提，但是台湾政府一味的反其道而行。
They're calling for expanded public childcare services up to the age of 12, more flexible paid parental leave with job protection that encourages fathers to play an equal role in childcare, and keep women in the workforce to make childcare easier in dual-income families. They brought their suggestions to legislators who recently discussed possible reforms to the parental leave system. Currently, employees with children are given 7 days of unpaid family care leave per year, but advocates say few parents use it, fearing a drop in salary or eventually getting laid off. But making changes into policy may take time.
是否增订以小时为单位的有薪亲职假，影响的层面很广泛，我们还需要收集各界的意见来审慎衡酌。
But time is ticking for Taiwan as the population continues to set new records in ways that may jeopardize the country's future. Chris Ma and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has seen more deaths than births for 4 consecutive years now, contributing to a gradual decline in its population. To learn more about Taiwan's low birth rate, Billy Wu spoke with Stuart Jiedo Baston, a professor of social science and public policy at Hong Kong University of Science and Technology.
So what do you think are the root causes of Taiwan's low birth rates?
At the minute, the fertility rate is very low because it is a reflection of the challenges which are being faced in Taiwanese society at the moment around getting started in life, building a life, and then starting a family and growing a family. And just money and incentives is only ever going to be a part of that, right? It's a reflection of fundamental issues in the system and of these kind of, I think, broken institutional frameworks. And of course, these factors are the same as here in Hong Kong, or whether it's in Singapore or in mainland China or in South Korea, Japan. You know, these are all of these issues around getting a good job, getting started in life, getting a house.
Now, many Taiwan's government policies are focusing on financial incentives like subsidies or social housing to boost birth rate. Do you think these measures are effective?
So when we look around the world, financial incentives to boost the birth rate don't work. They don't work in terms of changing the attitudes of people around the total number of children they're going to have. You know, if a young person with a graduate, with a graduate job cannot get a flat in Taipei until they are 35, then I'm sorry, something is wrong with the system. Something is wrong with either the property market or the labour market, right? And childbearing is just a downstream consequence of that. So giving people money to have children is not going to remedy this at all.
Given the challenges young people face today, many of them are hesitant about marriage and parenthood. What other measure could be taken to encourage people in Taiwan to have more children?
I think the first thing we need to do is stop trying to encourage childbirth, because I think it becomes counterproductive, because younger people have got enough to worry about. So we have to listen to what people's concerns are and try to respond to them. And if that means looking very differently at the way we structure and organize life, society, work, and that would mean changing everything. It would mean changing the housing market, the education system, better rights at work. It would mean changing the culture and the mindset of men to be much more involved in domestic work and in child rearing. Right? So it would require a root and branch change or rethink of how society is actually run. That's going to be extremely difficult.
Now, Stuart Gettle-Baston, professor of social science at Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Cleanup workers have been scheduled to begin emptying the oil tank of a typhoon-damaged Chinese freighter stuck off Taiwan's northeast coast. Fearing an oil leak and with more bad weather ahead, authorities want to get the job done as soon as possible. Wesley Lewis tells us more.
A race against the clock after bad weather hampered earlier attempts. A cleanup crew from Taiwan's transportation ministry was today meant to finally begin emptying oil from the oil tank of a massive Chinese freighter, stranded off the northeastern coast in New Taipei. But work crews are absent from the scene of the stranded ship. Representatives from the Maritime Port Bureau declined to comment on any possible delays to the cleanup schedule. Officials say the process could take up to 2 weeks, with pumps working 24 hours a day to remove the approximately 290 tons of oil products on the Chinese ship. Operations, they say, will be closely monitored due to the risks of a potential oil leak.
有4个渔港啊，我们天天在巡查，整个海岸线也在巡查，应变资材都放在现场。真的有状况、油污泄漏出来的时候，就是会先去做防堵。
The partially submerged ship ran aground 2 weeks ago, when it sustained damage from strong waves and gale force winds due to Typhoon Usagi. It left Taiwan's busy Geelong port on the 29th of October, transporting 3 gantry cranes to China. The Taiwanese Coast Guard rescued all 17 of the ship's crew members and brought them back to shore, a demonstration of friendship, one local official said, amid cross-strait tensions. The weather is calm now, and officials have said they are confident conditions are ideal for the start of the oil retrieval operations. But the next few days are crucial, as another typhoon is headed this way, and this could further complicate or even delay the cleanup process. The stranded ship is also located right next to a popular tourist attraction, the Yeliu Geopark. The natural scenic area known for its geological crown jewel, the natural formation dubbed the Queen's Head Rock. This geopark attracts thousands of domestic and international visitors every year, many still visiting despite the stranded ship. Onlookers here have raised concerns over the severity of the situation.
对啊，可能会有漏油啊，或者是它机具那个船浮在海上，本身就对面的海间的生态就会有影响吧。
其实我觉得是不能很急着去抽它，应该是有相关单位依据他们的专业，然后就是来看怎么抽不会让那个油漏出来。
它影响到这边的生态，生态有时候是没办法复原，或者要好几十年才会复原的。
Prepared to work around the clock, the government says it is determined to restore this unique coastline and keep it pristine and safe. But it seems cleanup crews have yet to be dispatched today, raising concerns of when they will start emptying the stranded vessel of all environmentally harmful products before it's lashed by the next approaching storm. Patrick Chen and Wesley Lewis for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has issued land and sea warnings for Typhoon Usagi, which is expected to bring heavy rain across the country over the weekend. The storm is approaching Taiwan with maximum sustained winds of 155 kilometers per hour. The country's weather agency predicts high waves along the eastern and southwestern coasts and around the outlying Orchid and Green Islands. At least 10 domestic flights have already been canceled. China has been trying to remove public traces of a mass killing that left 35 people dead and more than 40 injured. As Chris Gordon reports, it's part of the Chinese state's efforts to control the narrative around major events.
A driver's deadly actions caught on tape. The social media footage captured just a small part of an attack that saw an SUV plow through crowds of people in the southern Chinese city of Zhuhai. According to authorities, at least 35 people were killed and another 43 injured near a city sports center. They say the attacker was angry about his divorce settlement and is now in a coma due to self-inflicted stab wounds. Local residents are shaken.
很震惊吧，因为我老公每天晚上也会去那边跑步，第一时间就跟我老公打电话，他刚好那天有事，他就没有去。
发生这种类似于恐怖袭击的感觉，所以就给我的感觉就是很震惊。
因为现在这社会搞得真的有点，心情都是有一丢丢的怕。
But few people in China may have seen this footage. Videos and photos of the incident have reportedly been scrubbed from Chinese social media. At the same time, several videos show government workers removing flowers from a memorial for the victims and discouraging people from lingering at the site of the attack.
你好，这是拿走吗？
没有拿到里面灵堂去。
哪里啊？
里面有灵寺，就是灵堂，
我可以进去吗？
啊？
我可以进去吗？
不能进哦，不能进。
为什么？
China watchers say it's not unusual, part of an effort to control public perception of China as a safe and stable society.
The government narrative is not that nobody died in Zhuhai or that this didn't happen. What it doesn't want is for the public to be able to lead the narrative, for the public to be able to shape the narrative, to talk about contributing factors that can lead to such an incident like this, or a pattern of mass killing events in recent months.
The shutting down of the memorials by officials coincides with the city's hosting of China's largest air show, in which it debuted some of its most advanced military equipment.
The way the government treats people who try to commemorate or memorialize victims, that's such a natural thing to do in society. Its knee-jerk reaction is we can't even let the public properly memorialize. And I think that's one of the things it's always a little bit shocking and hurtful to watch in an event like this.
Whatever the motivations of the killer and of the Chinese authorities, dozens of families are left to grieve. Whether others in China will be able to grieve with them is a different question. John Su and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
World leaders are gathering in Peru's capital, Lima, for this year's APEC forum. The 21 member states from across the Pacific are set to discuss global economics, tech, and sustainability. Among the representatives is former Economy Minister Ling Xingyi, representing Taiwan under the name Chinese Taipei. U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping are scheduled to meet on the sidelines of the forum on Saturday, meeting for the first time since last year's summit. They're expected to discuss Russia's war in Ukraine, the South China Sea, cybersecurity, and Taiwan. And as world leaders gather in Peru, protesters take to the streets to highlight issues that they're facing at home. Reese Ayers reports from Lima.
Police are out in force here in the streets of Lima as protests and strikes begin, deliberately coinciding with APEC 2024 hosted here in Peru, where world leaders will come together for one of the world's biggest international economic forums. Protesters have gathered here in central Lima near the country's Congress, angry with a rise in organized crime and extortion attacks across Peru.
Ellos no nos cuidan a nosotros, ellos cuidan a los delincuentes que están en el Congreso, en el gobierno, a los extorsionadores de la calle, ellos cuidan a ellos.
Acá, por ejemplo, ese gobierno es dictatorial, no quiere críticas, ¿no?
Ahora estoy buscando justicia, como sea, tengo que lograr seguir hasta el último, hacer justicia queremos nosotros. Y ahorita nos deprime policía.
Peruvian leaders anticipated these protests, deploying thousands of police across the city and closing roads. A spokesperson for the president even referring to the potential protesters as traitors to the country.
Todo aquel que convoque a una paralización en los días donde se realice el foro APEC es un traidor a los intereses de la patria.
Strikes and protests are expected to continue throughout the week and possibly grow in size and move closer to the venues hosting this year's APEC forum, where at the end of the summit, world leaders will gather to release a joint declaration. Scott Huang, Harel Hughes, and Rees in Lima, Peru for TaiwanPlus.
Stay tuned to TaiwanPlus in the next few days for more of our APEC coverage. TSMC employees in the U.S. are suing the chip maker for alleged discrimination in its hiring practices. According to Forbes, the lawsuit says TSMC, a Taiwanese company, favors Mandarin-speaking employees in its new plant in the U.S. state of Arizona. The lawsuit alleges other employees are discriminated against in hiring, promotions, and contract renewals. TSMC has declined to comment on the case, but says it values a diverse workforce. The chipmaker has been battling labor issues in the U.S. state, forcing the company to delay the fab's opening. Taiwanese manufacturer Foxconn has set a new profit record for the third quarter of this year. The world's largest contract electronics maker posted over $1.5 billion in after-tax profit, representing 14% growth year on year. Foxconn made close to $3.3 billion in the first 9 months of this year, up nearly 20% on 2023. The company says it expects more robust growth due to surging demand for AI products. Foxconn's shares have doubled so far in 2024 as it's set to build the world's largest manufacturing center for some of NVIDIA's chips. For people living on Taiwan's outlying islands of Kinmen, which lie just off of China's southeast coast, where are you from can be a complex question, as many residents have different opinions on their identity. Cadence Quaranta reports.
那时候1958年823炮战刚打过以后，所有的军人都戴着这个头盔。
Wang Ling, a tour guide, says soldiers used to roam these streets on Taiwan's outlying Kinmen Islands, which are governed by Taiwan but are much closer to China, and used to be the front line of battle between the two sides. For people living here, still caught in the middle of cross-strait tensions, identity can be a complicated question. Wang was raised in Kinmen and now owns several businesses here. But when she was a teenager, she identified as Chinese. That changed only after she moved to the main island of Taiwan for college.
可能是因为有移动到台湾去，有一些冲击，然后想法上有一些变化，对，所以我自己在自己的认同上面就会觉得，哦，我是金门人，我也是台湾人。
Wang says depending on their background and age, each person on Kinmen may have a different answer to the question, where are you from? Opinions vary even along this one street. Yan Jiren, who owns a Chinese medicine shop, says his ancestors came to Kinmen from southeast China, and he goes back often to see family. When asked where he's from, he says,
中华民国是虽然说是中华民国是属于台湾的，不过我们是从台湾那边过来金门，所以说两边的话都是我们的亲人，所以说我们觉得我们是中华民国人。
The Republic of China is Taiwan's official name. It once governed mainland China before its troops were defeated by the communists in the Chinese Civil War, and it was forced to flee to Taiwan in 1949. On the mainland, the communists then established the People's Republic of China. But at the time, the ROC still considered itself the legitimate government of both Taiwan and mainland China. And nowadays, though some in Taiwan still believe this idea, others reject it. But Yen's 30-year-old daughter gives a different answer.
从以前就人家问我说，哎，我们是哪里人的话，从哪里来的，我可能就会说我们是金门人。
But she wouldn't often say she's from Taiwan, and that's relatively common here. Just steps away from the medicine shop, another business owner gives yet a different answer.
照省级来分的话，那个我太太是台湾人啦，我是福建人。
Yet another complication, Kinmen residents hold Taiwanese ID cards, but on them it says they're from Fujian province. This refers to the ROC's Fujian province, not mainland China's. Taiwan and Fujian used to be considered separate provinces within the ROC. All these different identities exist side by side on this small island, illustrating the complexities of this place, both friendly with China and Taiwan's first line of defense against it. From where I'm standing in Kinmen, China's only a few kilometers away. Across the water is the Chinese city of Xiamen. Here is also a reminder of Kinmen's role as a front line between Taiwan and China. Until the 1990s, these speakers broadcast propaganda over to China.
高兴的能够站在自由祖国的第一前线金门，我感觉到非常的快乐，非常的幸福。我希望在大陆的同胞也可以跟我们享受到一样的民主跟自由。
People here recognize that Kinmen is in a unique position, like this business owner who identifies as Taiwanese.
没有人依赖对岸，可是我们又享有说对岸的一些资源，相对的我们也有受到台湾我们的政府的保护跟重要的资源，我们都有。
Kinmen is connected to Xiamen by ferry, just a 30-minute ride. Kinmen residents go to China often, and some own property there. In 2018, Kinmen even started importing water from China. But a sociologist who studies Kinmen warns of the potential consequences of these links.
我觉得跟中国的任何的经济互动，尤其经济依赖，其实都脱离不了有受到统战的脉络。在1979年的经改的时候，他就有一个政策出来，就是他要利用经济跟台湾的融合。
China has vowed unification with Taiwan and threatened to take it by force. But although some here may consider themselves Chinese, One Kinmen County councilor says many residents still want democracy.
我会觉得说，普遍金门人还是认可我们的这个民主体制，我们生活在体制下，认同这个体制，这个就是最大的一个认可，我们彼此之间的一个共识。
金门看起来像跟香港一样离大陆很近，可是我们有自己的法律，我们有自己的宪法，我们有自己的投票权，我们有自己的总统，我们才一定认同这个民主了。如果不认同，我们现在不认同，我们就会放弃国籍去对岸了。
Now, people here, like Wang and her husband, who's from Beijing, grapple with how to articulate the complexities of living on Kinmen to their children.
他们会用闽南语跟我讲，用金门话跟我讲说：“妈妈，那是金门人，那是台湾人吗？我是台湾人吗？”就他也问他自己是不是，我就跟他说：“哦，那是金门人嘛是台湾人。”我就会跟他说：“哦，爸爸是中国人。”
In their own ways, people here on this small island group are doing their best to make sense of their position between Taiwan and China. Ryan Wu, Pichi Zhuang, and Kings Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for joining us this evening on TaiwanPlus News. Head over to our website to see more of our stories and our other programs. Finally, let's take a stroll at London's Kew Garden as it lights up for Christmas. I'm Eric Gao. Take care. We'll see you next time.